Dollar. Dirt on money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, what's good, original crew, man? We're back. We have Dirty Dan Schneider, the creep. We have already have done a couple of these videos. I think we got 2 videos we done on this topic already. It's over there on the Extra Dose channel. Y'all go check that out, Extra Dose of Kid, and see if you don't know about it. Oh, you know how I could tell you can really go over there? Know how? Mm-hmm. Make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go. The links to the Extra Dose channel is in the description.
Yes.
The links to the Patreon is in the description. Link to the Facebook is in the description. All the links that you need to know about is in the description box down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's visual,
like it with a thumbs up.
But let's go. Let's hop into it. If you don't know about this, you've been obviously sleeping under a rock. But hey, let's hop into it. Let's check it out. Let's see what it's about, y'all.
Is it a coincidence that 3 convicted pedophiles were working at the largest children's television network during the peak of its success and popularity? What if I told you that there was also a convicted pedophile managing the children that were often cast on the network's shows? What if I told you that many of the underage girls were forced to kiss men over the age of 18 on camera? And then what if you found out that multiple of these young victims grew up and were caught performing inappropriate sexual acts with children themselves, repeating the cycle of abuse? These are not rumors, these are facts. When you combine these facts with the realization that many of the jokes, physical comedy, outfits, and even random pieces of the set were sexual innuendos, at some point you'd start to eliminate the possibility.
Yo. Okay, Pat. You bringing more out that we ain't even know nothing about. That's crazy. That is...
And even random pieces of the set were sexual innuendos. At some point, you'd start to eliminate the possibility of this being a coincidence and start thinking this was all by design. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how a powerful network of executives separated child actors from their families, have their actors depend on them for emotional support, then abuse their power to overwork these children, rake in billions in profits, silence anyone who dared to speak out, and then bragged about it in front of the whole world. And just like most organized crime operations, they typically funnel up to one top boss, the untouchable creator of this machine. Insert Dan Schneider, the man behind the camera, the esteemed Nickelodeon producer who created some of the most iconic children's television programs in history.
At the end of the day, I love it when the cast gets sassy with me because I get to write all the scripts with some very talented writers, but I can put them in any horrible predicament I choose.
Dan Schneider was a child actor himself, most notable for his role as Dennis on Head of the Class. During this time, he and his co-star Brian Robbins became great friends. The pair were later asked to co-host the 2nd annual Kids' Choice Awards by...
That answers one of our questions we had.
Oh, what?
Remember, it was like how you actually get into Hollywood and stuff. So that answers that question.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon producer called Albie Hecht. The 3 men struck a friendship and frequently discussed creating a project together. By 1993, Hecht had become a high-level executive at Nickelodeon and challenged Robbins to pitch him a children's television series that their new production studio could pitch to Nickelodeon. At the time, Nickelodeon was not yet the powerhouse it would become. The network struggled to become profitable in the 80s as they were losing millions of dollars per year. One year, they were actually the lowest viewed network out of all US cable channels. Early 90s cartoons like Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy were allowing the network to pick up higher viewership, but their live-action shows struggled. So Brian recruited Dan and they came up with a sketch comedy show like Saturday Night Live, but for children, called All That. Dan wrote in his personal blog, "We did a nationwide talent search and got very lucky. Every kid we ended up hiring for the original All That cast turned out to be fantastic. Josh Server, Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell, Katrina Johnson, Lori Beth Denberg, Angelique Bates, and Melissa Reyes. Dan recalled that the show didn't test well and that the network felt like kids wouldn't like a sketch comedy show, but they took a chance on him and the show immediately became a huge success for Nickelodeon as soon as it aired. All that would go on to have 10 seasons and become one of the most culturally significant teen Nickelodeon shows of all time. Imagine how proud the executives were of Dan's performance. They were finally getting the big break they needed, and Nickelodeon was coming closer to becoming a profitable network. The only thing that could ruin their momentum would be some sort of scandal or reports of child abuse, and that's exactly what happened according to Angelique Bates, who was only 12 years old when the abuse began.
From 1992 to 1996, I was a series regular on Nickelodeon's All That. I was only 12 years old, and that's when my nightmare began. I was physically, mentally, emotionally abused in front of the producers and cast members, and sometimes they could even hear me yelling. But nothing was done to help me until approximately 1996 when CPS was called. And when CPS came, I was pressured by all the adults that were set to protect me to stay silent. I did, and I have. But I can no longer stay silent, and I won't. My name is Angelique Bates, and I am an adult survivor of child abuse, and this is my story.
Angelique is the first known survivor who has spoken up against Nickelodeon's corrupt practices, and her story is extremely important because it also highlights the parents' involvement in such abuse. Angelique recalls Nickelodeon producers being upset that her mom was constantly supervising her.
They started having a bullseye for her was that she was one of the parents that was not going to leave me unattended on set because by law, parents are supposed to be there. So they didn't like that fact that she wouldn't leave me.
Some parents would leave their kids unsupervised while they work. They trusted the producers and did not want to interfere with their child's opportunity to build a career for themselves. Angelique's mother was not like that, and she even recalled a time where someone made a sexual advance towards her and her mother threatened to sue the network. Unfortunately, Angelique's mother was also physically and emotionally abusive towards her, so she wasn't safe on set or at home.
The double-edged sword with my mom. My mom's beating my ass, but then she's like protecting me from Nickelodeon all at the same time. Like, she blocked all that. Like I said, the reason why they started hating her was because she was blocking me from that and because she was turning down sexual advances from it.
Angelique slowly received less and less work due to her mother's involvement and believed she was blackballed by Nickelodeon because she and her mother could not be controlled. And because no wrongdoings were ever officially reported, All That ratings continued to soar. The series propelled the careers of cast members Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell, who starred in the first All That spin-off, Kenan and Kel. The show originally aired on Nickelodeon for 4 seasons from 1996 to 2001 and was equally as successful as All That, winning the Favorite TV Show award at the 1998 Kids' Choice Awards. They also starred in the Nickelodeon cult classic film, Good Burger. However, with Schneider in charge, not much changed behind the scenes. Taisha Hampton, ex-wife of Kel Mitchell, spoke out on suspicious behavior she experienced on Nickelodeon sets. Taisha was married to Mitchell from 1999 to 2005, but they originally met on the set of Good Burger where she was casted as an extra. She too backs up the claims that parents were not around.
And these parents, like Kel's parents, were not with him. All these parents of the kids on the show, their parents were not with him.
Separate the children from the parents. That seems to be a theme with Nickelodeon. There are two...
Damn, that's a lot. That's a lot of information that...
Like, you like...
I'm like, yo, shout out to Patrick. This is actually good. So far. I'm talking about as far as doing research.
Yeah.
I'm saying gathering and doing research.
I know what you mean.
I'm just saying some people are like, what you mean this is good? You know.
Reasons why they likely did this. Firstly, it seems like Nickelodeon was trying to take advantage of loose child labor laws in Florida, where the shows were filmed. According to the 1998 Florida Child Labor Code, minors aged 15 and under could work 40 hours per week as long as it was during a holiday or summer vacation. 16 and 17-year-olds who graduated from high school or had their GED did not have to abide by any work hour restrictions. A school superintendent could also issue a waiver of hours, and there is no law that specifically states a parent must supervise their kid while their child is working. However, regardless of what the code says, child labor experts say the laws were rarely enforced or penalized when there was a violation. In 1992, Jeffrey Newman of the National Child Labor Committee said that child labor today is at a point where violations are greater than at any point during the 1930s. One report found that the average business could expect to be inspected once every 50 years or so. Inspectors spend only about 5% of their time looking into child labor problems. Businesses across the entire nation were taking advantage of loose child labor laws in the 90s. Do you think Nickelodeon was any different? Children are more susceptible to exploitation and abuse in the workplace due to their vulnerability and lack of bargaining power. Think of how easy it would be for a TV producer to torment and gaslight a young actor if they weren't getting their lines right or performing to the producer's standards. But if their parents were there on set witnessing their child get scolded, they might cause a fuss. Producers want as little friction as possible, so it's not crazy to think that they probably cast talent with parents who stay out of their way. But once they do get the parents out of the way, what do they do with the kids?
Because we would get into clubs and we were young, like 16, 17 years old, and we'd be in clubs. And the people on the set in Florida made us fake IDs. And so then I started thinking, I was like, wait, what? And then they were talking about orgies, and they were talking about, like, people on the set would show, like, pornos, and they'd give us alcohol.
Those were kids, like young kids on that set.
Yeah, these are grown 30-year-old men and women.
Showing this to the kids.
16, 17, 15, 14-year-old kids. But another one of the cast members was like cleaning Dan Schneider's car with a bikini on. And now at this time she had been 15, 16 years old. There were other times they would have like parties where the parents wouldn't be there, and they'd give us alcohol. And another one of the people on the cast was giving blowjobs to the producers.
Oh,
wow.
no.
One of the kids.
And they were kids.
Tracy Brown, whose son Brian Hearn was cast on All That for season 7 and 8, tells a similar story from a mother's perspective.
Because there were many times on that set where they're like, hey, we want to invite Brian to a party. And I'm like, hey, just Brian? And they go, yes. And I'm like, no. And they don't like moms that take control of their child. But I had heard things. So guess what? You don't need to like me. And they were like, well, bye-bye. And I was like, let's go. I was not going to do anything for the money. Like, y'all need to understand, I'm that woman. I'm not going to do anything that might compromise my son, not even for the income.
But many even suspect that the producer's perversion may have been scripted into the shows, starting with Kyra on Kenan and Kel, who was just 12 years old but was always trying to flirt and make sexual advances on the much older Kel. She would refer to him as her boyfriend despite him being obviously uninterested because she...
I never looked at it like that. Because Kenan and Kel is one of my favorite shows. I still watch it even to this day. You know what I'm saying? It's just that. But I never looked at, like...
I'm going to say...
Because people do that in real life.
Oh. Do.
Like, be over flirtatious. Like, stuff like that happens in real life.
But it's like she's younger and he's older. And then also, 9 times out of 10 when you were watching it back... Because I know we watched this recently.
Yeah.
But when you were watching it back then, you're not thinking like that because you're young as well.
I'm just like, it's annoying little sister.
And then you're watching it now at your big age, today, and you're still not looking at it like that because you still look at it. Yeah, you still look at it kind of like you looked at it back then because your mind's not going there.
Yeah.
But you have to also, with situations like this, when you start seeing and hearing the sick stuff and finding out, you like... Yeah, you go there with that. Yeah. Because things are intentional.
Yeah. Because you got to understand, it's not the kids writing the scripts.
Right.
They're just acting out what grown adults have written for them. And so grown adults are putting their sick fantasies and sick thoughts into these scripts. Even like how all the adult jokes and cartoons.
Yeah.
A lot of them was Nickelodeon cartoons. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of adult jokes in them, especially Ren and Stimpy. And they'll just come out and be like, hey, those shows wasn't meant for kids, but they're on a kids network and they're cartoons.
Yeah.
So who are more likely
to watch it?
child. At the same time that Kenan and Kel were huge stars, one All That cast member emerged and became the most iconic Nickelodeon star of all time, Amanda Bynes. At just 10 years old, Amanda stood out amongst her peers and showcased her comedic talents through various characters and sketches. As a preteen, she was maturely confident and comfortable on screen. According to Leon Frierson, who was cast on All That since season 1, Schneider showed clear favoritism for Bynes. "We had to go to school on set. There would be times when Amanda would just be missing," he recalled in the docuseries. "A lot of times we would hear she would be with Dan, pitching ideas and writing. We see them grow closer to each other on set." He continued, "Amanda Bynes' parents were very hands-on in her career, specifically her dad. His presence was always felt. A big part of that was his relationship with Dan Schneider. Like we said before, hands-on parents were not wanted on Nickelodeon's set. That is, unless they are bending to the interests of Dan Schneider." Despite the favoritism, Dan never planned on giving Amanda her own show because he claims he never wanted to be on children's television. He initially created and helped produce a series called Guys Like Us for the United Paramount Network at their primetime 8 p.m. slot. Guys Like Us revolves around two young men, Sean Barker and Jared Harris. The pair are forced to look after Jared's 6-year-old brother Maestro, who comes to live with them after Jared's father accepts a job opportunity overseas.
"Why don't you go wash your hands?"
"They're clean."
"Well, then go wash your feet."
Dan's sitcom, designed for adults, was an utter failure as he was not funny nor creative enough to keep adults entertained. It was canceled after one season due to abysmal ratings, so he shifted his focus to creating a show around Amanda. The Amanda Show was a sketch comedy television program that had a very similar look, feel, and comedic style as All That and Kenan and Kel. Schneider struck gold again. The Amanda Show became the highest-rated live-action television program on Nickelodeon during its run. Amanda portrayed various characters that would become iconic, such as Judge Trudy, Crazy Courtney, and Amanda's obsessive fan, Penelope Taint.
"My name is Penelope Taint. I'm Amanda's #1 fan, please."
And it took us 20 years to realize that her last name was a sexual innuendo. People also think that her catchphrase
I didn't get that. Do you get it?
And again.
I'm saying I'm still like.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm saying, and again, you having an innocent mind, growing up watching this stuff.
I got a grown mind now, so I'm trying to see.
No, that's not what I'm saying, sir.
Amanda Please was built off the phrase "a man to please," which would be such a deep, detailed level of innuendo that it's kind of hard to believe. However, as this video goes on, it just seems more and more possible. People today also believe that her sketch called Amanda's Jacuzzi may have been inappropriate since the whole concept was her as a 13-year-old interviewing mostly grown men in a hot tub. And of course, another foot joke.
"Is it also true that you can put both of your feet inside your mouth at the same time?"
"I don't know." "No."
Even Dan decided to jump in the jacuzzi with Amanda.
"Hi, welcome to my jacuzzi. Today my special guest is the executive producer of The Amanda Show, Dan Schneider."
Hi.
Now, you're the executive producer of the show.
Yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
People believe Dan was almost bragging by
Also, peep this. Why the fuck you got glasses on?
Why
you hold on, just saying, why you in the jacuzzi? Also, why you in there? Because you don't want people seeing where your eyes are wandering to.
Yeah.
You trying to be slick.
And facts. I want to go back to the name thing. I guess my mind's still innocent because I didn't think that he was talking about Amanda Please.
Yeah.
Like in breaking it down, I thought he was talking about like her last name.
The
on
Penelope.
Penelope.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Which, when you look it up, it still has a negative definition to it. Yeah. But I'm like, what?
Amanda.
That's crazy.
Yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
People believe Dan was almost bragging by creating lightly sexual conduct into his kids' shows, like the Spitballer 5000, which was a phallic object that the kids had to blow into to launch a giant spitball at someone. Behind-the-scenes footage indicates that Dan and Amanda were very close, which is why it was shocking that The Amanda Show abruptly ended in 2002, just 3 years after it aired on Nickelodeon. In an interview with The Times, Bynes explained that she decided to leave for other opportunities. "I was having fun, but at 15, you don't want to be doing what you did when you were 12. Schneider also commented on her.
Even that comment itself doesn't necessarily make sense. You don't want to, and honestly, that's too grown of a. Now it would be different if you were 17 or 18. When you're 18, say, "Hey, I don't want to still be doing a show that I was doing started when I was 12 years old." Makes sense. You just 15. You don't even know. You're not even able to have a license to drive yet. There's still room for growth with the show. Mm-hmm. At 15, you say you don't want to do this show anymore because you don't want to still do the same. You're not that, haven't grown out of that mindset of a 12-year-old. It's just 3 years apart. Okay. What I'm saying is, it's something else behind it. Right. And he was too touchy-feely for somebody not to be your father. True. Even an uncle, you kind of like, why are you so touchy-feely? You know what I'm saying? Sure. Even like a relative. Like, if a dad's like that with his child, you don't think to maybe an uncle, depending on the relationship. You might be like, oh, that's just an uncle because that's another male figure in the life. But as your producer, you kind of like side-eye, like, why the fuck you touching it so much? Mm-hmm. And I guess because of the times, we're not thinking about it. I don't know. Well, I'll say for us, because we were kids and we grew up watching these. This was our childhood. But yeah, but just going back to what you said, yeah, of course. Like, but that's not on her. Like, at 15, if something is going on and 9 times out of 10, you're probably scared to say something, or you have other people that's in his corner that's supposed to be protecting you, and they're not doing anything. Then yeah, I'm gonna just like, hey, I'm too old.
It with, "I've seen kids in her position experiment with drugs and be too promiscuous, but Amanda has avoided all of that. My wife, who knows her, says she's almost like Marsha Brady in that she's so clean-cut and wholesome." This quote seems characteristically odd from Dan, like she was just talking about transitioning to more mature roles like her sitcom What I Like About You, and he had to bring up drugs and sex for some reason. Many years later, cast members would come out and speak about how they perceived Amanda behind the scenes. Actress Chelsea Brummett, who co-starred on All That, recalled, "She was closed off to everyone. You'd ask her a question and she'd give you a quick answer to end the conversation. She was always defiant with her dad, but she tried to hide things from her dad. She always seemed like she was trying to hide things. They would butt heads." This recountment does line up with the timeline of 2003, where Amanda sought to be emancipated from her parents at just 17 years old. In June of 2003, Amanda's agent, manager, and lawyer were all abruptly fired by her parents. The young star, now 17, was seeking legal emancipation from her parents, who were furious when they discovered that the reps had concealed this fact from them. Unfortunately, Amanda was not able to successfully get emancipated. During this rough patch in her life, Bynes reportedly leaned on Schneider and his wife, Lisa Lillian, for support. "She was spending a lot of time with us," said Lillian, "but she never left her family's house." This direct quote from Dan's wife is strong evidence that Dan and Amanda were close offset. Amanda has spoken out very strongly against her father and maybe at the time looked at Schneider as a replacement father figure. Dan also recently recounted a night where Amanda ran away from home.
One night, it was very late, well after midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning. Phone rang. I answered. It was Amanda. She was upset. She was in distress. She had had some conflict with her parents, I think her father, and she called me. I was immediately concerned about her safety. I called someone who I knew was fairly nearby. That person was able to go and pick her up. Then I knew she was safe. I felt better. She ended up being taken to the police.
As much as people blame Dan for the downfall of Amanda's career, or claim that he had suspicious involvement that's deeper and more inappropriate, throughout Amanda's whole life and numerous public spirals, she never blamed or accused Dan Schneider of anything. All of her anger and horrible accusations were towards her biological father. However, the cloud of mystery and potentially inappropriate behavior surrounding Amanda, as well as her obviously broken family life, seemed to be a common gray area Dan found himself in with his stars. Over the years, some of the most prominent stars like Jamie Lynn Spears, Jeanette McCurdy, and Ariana Grande all had absent fathers. On one hand, you can blame the parents. On another, you could look at Dan as a predatory opportunist. Or maybe...
That is key word. Because even the Amanda situation, it feels a lot like grooming someone. You're preparing someone, and at 17, you got one more year than you're legal. So what's the best way to get you fully disconnected with your family, your loved ones? Tell you, hey, you know what I'm saying? Somebody's in your ear coaching you about emancipation, separating yourself. So then once you turn 18, it's really like, boom, you know? But it really gives a lot of energy of grooming someone. But also you have had time to groom them.
Yeah.
Especially when she's spending so much time with your wife. So much time with you. What the fuck is up with that? That in itself is weird.
Yeah, true.
There's boundaries.
Always should be. Should be.
Like, I understand you they say, hey, but you know who you were supposed to call? CPS. You were supposed to call the police. You're not supposed to call a friend. You're not supposed to say, hey, I know somebody. You're supposed to call, you know what I'm saying, the proper authorities to handle that situation.
A little bit of both. But there was a real convicted predator who worked underneath Dan Schneider. Jason Handy, a production assistant who worked on All That and The Amanda Show, exchanged email addresses and phone numbers with parents and kids who thought he was a friendly and helpful presence on set. You thought, oh, I could be friends with this person, said MJ, the mother of a former actress on The Amanda Show, who was identified as Brandy. The mother was mortified when she saw her 11-year-old daughter looking at a graphic email from Handy.
It was a picture of him naked.
Oh.
Masturbating.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And he said he had sent it to her because he wanted her to see that he was thinking of her.
Oh.
Her daughter left the entertainment industry after that email. Handy was arrested in April of 2003 after law enforcement received a tip about him. When the police investigated his home, they found over 1,700 images of young girls in erotic poses, as well as 7 videos on CD files of children engaged in sexually explicit conduct. In Handy's personal diary, he wrote sentences like, I am a pedophile full-blown. He added, I have really been giving into my desire for little girls these past few weeks. And then he detailed his day-to-day struggle on how he could find a victim that he could sexually assault. In 2004...
Oh, shit. And you telling me nobody noticed anything bizarre about this guy the whole time on the set? Nobody here thought, like, hey, he just give me weird creep vibes, bro. We should bring this... Hey, even if you report it to somebody who possibly is doing, they ain't gonna blow the red flag. Cause they like, hey, you finna blow up my joint. What I got going on? So why I'm gonna make his situation?
Multiple people around on the same stuff.
And so if you report it to Dan, and if it's all assumptions right now, but if he is on that type of time, he ain't finna blow the spot up. Cause then you gonna bring some attention to him. And other people, if he is doing something, people gonna speak out. So, you know. Yeah. So even if you do it, he's like, okay, I'll deal with it. La 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 la. He's still working here.
Was sentenced to 6 years in prison after being convicted on 2 felony counts, one of lewd acts on a child and one of distributing sexually explicit material by email, as well as on a misdemeanor charge related to sexual exploitation of a child. Many of you are probably thinking 6 years is not enough, and surprise surprise, he got out and in 2014 committed 2 other felony sex offender violations with a child. Allegedly, Handy's case prompted Nickelodeon to toughen its background checks for all employees, trying to prevent this from happening again. Yet somehow, this was not even close to the last time a pedophile would infiltrate Nickelodeon's network. Actor Drake Bell formed a bond with the dialogue coach Brian Peck during the 2nd season of The Amanda Show. Peck, who has no relation to Drake's co-star Josh Peck, would invite Drake to his house for acting lessons. These lessons were supervised by Drake's father, Joe, who was told that Brian Peck was a skilled coach who would help Drake secure more acting opportunities. However, over time, Joe became uncomfortable with their relationship.
And unfortunately, I started seeing Brian start to just hang around Drake too much. And it didn't set well with me. Drake would be in the dressing room or something, and in would pop Brian, and just touch Drake. You know, do things that, wait a second, What are you doing? Drake can put that on himself. And the thing is, this is in front of people.
Joe expressed his concerns with production personnel and said he was uncomfortable with Brian, only to be called homophobic because of Brian's sexual orientation. Therefore, Joe backed off. Once this got back to Brian, he manipulated Drake into severing ties with his father/manager, suggesting that Joe was sabotaging Drake's career. Peck subsequently integrated himself into multiple areas of Belle's life and became a father figure for the young actor. Eventually, Peck convinces Drake's mother to let him stay at his house during auditions. What? These predators entice the children with fame and fortune, convince them that their parents are trying to hold them back, then totally isolate them and do who knows what behind closed doors. It's likely that all the kids who made it out unscathed were because of parents who stepped in and removed their child from the situation before it was too late. However, the more popular the actor was, such as Drake Bell, the more difficult it became to remove them from the industry. Sadly, with Brian Peck and Drake Bell, we do know what happened behind closed doors. When Drake slept on Brian's couch, the sexual assault began.
I was sleeping on the couch where I would usually sleep, and I woke up to him. I just opened my eyes, I woke up, and he was sexually assaulting me. Why don't you think of the worst stuff that someone can do to somebody as a sexual assault? And that'll answer your question.
Drake wouldn't tell anyone for several months. The abuse persisted until Drake began spending more time at a girlfriend's house. One day, when he was supposed to meet with Brian, Drake said he did not want to hang out. Brian then started calling his phone nonstop. When Drake failed to answer, Brian obsessively started calling his girlfriend's house, which is when the girlfriend's mother suspected something was wrong and took Drake to her family therapist. He later detailed the abuse to his own mother, who called the police. I had to be excruciatingly detailed about every single thing and time that it had happened with two absolute strangers. The worst part was I had to make a phone call to Brian and get him to admit to what he'd done. The police...
And that's another...
Ooh, baby, this is, honey...
Because we didn't watch the series. We didn't watch, we only seen clips and we watched... That, now I see why people be like, don't watch Mojo.
It said don't?
Yeah, they be telling us don't watch Mojo. They don't be like... I guess because they don't go in much detail.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes you just need the vague details. You don't need to go in that much detail. But that... Woo! All right.
Yeah.
Just gotta take a breather real quick.
Monitored a wired phone call with Brian, who broke into a full-on confession that led to his arrest. The investigation was conducted privately, and Bell remained unidentified to the public for several years due to his age at that time. Drake did tell Dan Schneider about this situation right before the trial.
And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? But Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me with my speech for the judge? And I said, of course. And I did.
During Brian Peck's trial, numerous prominent figures in the entertainment industry wrote letters of support vouching for his character, including James Marsden, Taran Killam, Growing Pains star Alan Thicke, Boy Meets World actors Will Friedle and Ryder Strong, among others. Some of these figures, including Friedle and Strong, have since expressed their regret over writing the letters and stated that they were manipulated by Peck's misinformation. Brian Peck was convicted of child molestation in 2004, pleading no contest to a charge of oral copulation with a minor under 16 and a charge of performing a lewd act with a 14 or 15-year-old. He spent only 16 months in prison and was mandated to register as a...
How the fuck y'all get him to plead to no contest after y'all got evidence of the conviction for 16 months? Y'all care more about a conviction rate than getting justice? That is sick in itself.
Yeah.
Because this, for somebody to be able to plead out on this level, it's more than just money. It's politics behind the shit. You know what I'm saying? When you got that much connection, shit, people, that's the reason why a lot of people get off with stuff.
Yep.
It's because money and connection.
Yep. 16
months for openly admitting to sexually assaulting a minor multiple times and able to get him on and he's not the only one.
Nope. Yeah.
What the absolute? All right.
15-year-old. He spent only 16 months in prison and was mandated to register as a sex offender. And if you are surprised at that abysmally low sentencing, Peck got out and secured a job working for Disney's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody in 2006, where he voiced London Tipton's talking mirror for 3 episodes. The Disney Channel hired a registered sex offender. Despite these horrible circumstances, Drake remained in the industry and would go on to star alongside Josh Peck in their legendary buddy comedy, Drake and Josh, which again caused the network's ratings to explode to new heights. The series premiere was watched by 3.2 million viewers, the network's highest rated series premiere in nearly 10 years. Drake and Josh episodes regularly saw viewership upwards of 5, 6, 7 million. As of 2006, the show ranked consistently among the 10 most watched cable shows across all of television, and you could just add Zoe 101 to the list of Dan's dominant programs, which saw an average of 3 million viewers per episode. It was on the set of Zoe 101 where even more photos emerged of Dan getting a little too comfortable with the cast, particularly Erin Sanders, who was merely a child being held and coddled on Dan's lap. You can also see this photo where Dan's hand is resting on the child's lower back. Zoe 101 also had 34 different kissing scenes across its 4 seasons. While this may not seem that strange for a teen drama show, it did often lead to underage female actresses kissing over 18-year-old males. Brando Eaton was 20 years old and Victoria Justice was 14. Victoria at this time also had to kiss Jaron Vosberg, who was 18. And get this, 12-year-old Jamie Lynn Spears had to kiss 22-year-old Justin Timberlake on the set of All That, and Justin dated Britney Spears, which is Jamie's sister, 3 years earlier. Also, this Zoe 101 scene resurfaced recently, and many believe it to be a sexual innuendo. Spears' co-star, Alexa Nicolas, recalled Dan making a crew member squirt the syringe of goo at Spears over and over again. It's also important to remember that all of the information that you now know from this video was totally unknown by the public at the time. All the allegations and predatory behavior was all silenced before they could ever reach headlines. Barely any media outlets were reporting on why pedophiles were allowed to work on set. Survivors were scared to speak their truth, and even if they wanted to, they would have to go through a publicist or rely on a potentially corrupt media outlet to tell their story the right way. All anyone saw was the final product on television, so we assumed everything was consensual and safe and approved by people who had the best interests of the children in mind. Even if the network was suspicious of Dan and his production staff, which they weren't, they were going to do anything and everything to protect his reputation because Nickelodeon was red hot. At this point, they had been the #1 network in viewers aged 2 to 11 for over a decade. They were raking in millions of viewers and billions of dollars. Dan had more power than ever and was about to unleash all of his sick fantasies through iCarly. The basic premise of iCarly was that Carly Shay, played by previous Drake and Josh co-star Miranda Cosgrove, and her friends Sam and Freddie, played by Jeanette McCurdy and Nathan Kress, produce a web show from Carly's older brother's apartment. The show resonated with the real-world rise of online content creation and the growing influence of social media platforms like YouTube during the 2000s. The show within a show encouraged fan interaction by incorporating segments that invited viewers to participate in the show's interactive elements. Additionally, the characters often responded to fan mail and viewer submissions on their web show, further blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Like, take a look at this time they called a 12-year-old fan.
Do you have any questions for Sydney?
I follow your Twitter.
How old are you?
I'm 12.
No way, I just turned 16.
You're 12?
Yes.
I'm like a little over double that.
Yeah, Jerry's all old. So, what do you like about iCarly?
I love it. It's really funny.
Anything else you want to know about iCarly or any questions or anything?
No.
No? You're all set?
Nope.
Thank you.
I know what I know.
Would you like us to get on a plane and come to your house?
Oh,
Yes.
shit.
No, well, that's not going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Dan. What the fuck? Why would you even, at your big grown ass age, why would you ask a 12-year-old, do you want to get us, the fuck is wrong with you? And they kind of look like awkward because they don't want to do this, and Dan put them up to doing this.
Okay.
Dan himself often communicated directly with fans on his blog, danwarp.blogspot.com, where he gave behind-the-scenes information and did Q&As. He also started giving tons of behind-the-scenes clips to his Dan Warp YouTube channel, giving us insight on the cast's uncomfortability around him.
What?
It wouldn't be a video from iCarly if I didn't do this to you.
I don't
Oh, yeah! What are you doing?
I don't know.
What's going on? What are you wearing today? Who did your outfit?
I did my outfit.
I've had too much caffeine.
Don't do anything with this footage. Please, it's so lame.
Did you know that the average adult American male has 18 hairs on each of his toes?
This is what happens when it gets late.
Yeah, seriously. Let us go home, Dan.
We would be home if you had gotten
What?
some of your lines
What?
right earlier in the day, right? Am I right? Yeah! Oh! Yeah, who's embarrassed now? Who's embarrassed? No! What are you doing?
I'm scared.
Jeanette. Susie Mae Page wants to know.
May Page.
Yeah, if you could fill a pool
would choose-
with get out of here.
Sorry.
Wants to know if you could fill a pool with anything you like and swim in it, what would it be and why?
Confetti, because it's a celebration in the pool.
Okay, that makes no sense.
Okay.
Miranda,
Pineapple juice.
what? I didn't ask the question.
Oh, sorry. Well, I heard. I was thinking this whole time.
Okay, the question is, if you wanted me to hit you with a bottle of something, what would it be? Pineapple juice? Okay, here comes. This is why I'm in Hollywood.
Yeah, get your cereal, kids.
Did she say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had to use it in a long time.
I said lots of nice things.
No, I said nice things about you too.
Oh.
That's gonna get on TV.
She wanted that to be
She
over
is
fast.
super uncomfortable. And he seems so annoying to work with.
He seems such a creep. Bro, like he just give off creep vibes,
Like,
bro.
Like, and
Like-
everyone just seems so, like, like...
When he come around, just
Yes, everyone is on edge. And I'm just like, bro.
That's gonna get on TV.
In these clips, you can get a glimpse of Dan's unpredictability. I mean, just look at how Miranda steps away from Dan as he proceeds to make his way around her back, and then hugs her from behind as she stands awkwardly still. As you can see, while Dan is shoving a camera in these actors' faces, they're often confused. Is he joking? Is he angry? Is he creepy? Is he going to touch them or grab them? They look extremely uncertain around him as he talks to them like a classic jester. But iCarly was a massive success for the network throughout its 6 seasons from 2007 to 2012. The pilot episode debuted on Nickelodeon to an audience of 4.1 million, followed by the second episode on the same day with 3.9 million viewers. The show was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Children's Program 5 times, and averaged 4.6 million viewers throughout its time on Nickelodeon. Somehow, Dan managed to outdo Drake and Josh. But looking back on the show, many of the jokes and innuendos were more blatant than we remember.
How long?
3.2 seconds.
Yeah! That's the longest it's ever taken you to beat me.
Or how about the sack, which was Dan making fun of the Snuggie.
You're just sitting on your couch, trying to polish your bowling ball, but your blanket keeps flying off your body.
Oh, my blanket keeps flying off my body.
Like, are we reading into it too much, or is polishing your ball while advertising the sack not strategic? They mentioned that the sack comes in 4 different colors.
The sack comes in rash red, mucus green, pus yellow, or blue.
His shows are always displaying close-ups of feet and putting cast members in predicaments where they have to touch each other's feet. Nobody thinks feet are this funny, especially not for them to be such a recurring bit in a television show. Many have pointed out that the Nickelodeon logo at one point was a foot, suggesting that Dan's influence was so strong he got them to change their logo momentarily to his fetish. I even found something on his blog that was particularly interesting. He had a segment called Fun Facts on his blog where he would go through an iCarly script and talk about tiny little details and why they matter. Like this one where he refers to Sam's necklace and how it's made of the same plastic that the antique radios that he collects are made out of. I mention this because it proves that there are no coincidences with what you see on screen. No matter how small or insignificant it may seem, Dan put it there on purpose. In this same episode, which is called I Date a Bad Boy, Dan says, "Scenes begin with Carly and Sam cutting a boy's hair. We see the first of 2 penny teas in this 1-hour episode. This one on Sam says, noodle booty. What does noodle booty mean? Why did Dan specifically point out her shirt and want us to know what it says?" In another blog post, he specifically points out one of his intentionally inappropriate jokes. One where he wrote a joke where an adult woman sexualizes 17-year-old Nathan Kress. Dan writes, "On the first few takes when Jane said her line, 'Hey, those pants fit you real good,' she was looking at the front of his pants. I had the director step in quietly and tell her that, because this is for Nickelodeon, we'd prefer she look at the back of his pants on that line. Winky face." I guess Dan thinks that complimenting a young boy's butt is somehow more appropriate. Additionally, take a look at this 2010 blog post where he discusses adults who watch iCarly. He writes, "There are around 150 people who work on iCarly, and none of us approach it like we're making a kids show. We make iCarly no differently than if we were writing and producing a primetime half-hour comedy for NBC, CBS, or any one of the major broadcast networks." This statement directly contradicts what he said while addressing the Quiet on Set documentary.
Some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
Every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny.
So Dan,
how would you know kids thought that was funny? You're not a child. You wasn't a child at any point. You even worked on an adult show, and your jokes didn't make it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then now you're contradicting what you said whenever that article was read.
Yeah, that mother.
Like, people not going to be like, well, you said this.
I just don't understand how you got all those pedophiles on. I ain't want to say the word. How you got all those on the on your set? Obviously, you gotta approve these hires.
Whoever approving it, whoever has the last say so.
He gotta have some type of say so because it's like you were running these shows.
But yeah.
So technically, everybody still works for you because you're running the show. You know, ain't no way in hell I'm gonna be like, they're pretty. Even Disney, bro. After Peck was found guilty, y'all still
because
went.
They don't want to mess up the bag. They whatever.
What bag though? You were convicted. I'm talking about Disney. You literally hired a convicted.
I'm talking about the net. I'm saying regardless of the fact, whatever they have to do, they're going to continue to hire whoever they feel like is best fit for whatever the show or for whatever they need, because it's not good for. Not him, because I didn't even realize that.
He might got some connects for real.
That, most definitely. But the ratings were good at the time. Money was looking good. People vouching for people. They just like, whatever. They just letting anything go, which is sad.
But, like, Peck's impact for the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody wasn't that
exactly.
real.
That's why I said I didn't even realize that.
So what was the purpose of even hiring him?
What was the purpose?
He got connections enough to say, hey, we're going to make sure you eat when you get out of jail. So we'll put you on some show.
Something.
So you get
your
some
face,
type of money.
They won't see your face, but you know what I'm saying?
You shouldn't even be able to voice
You shouldn't
anything.
even be, exactly.
Jokes for adults, like you said 10 years ago on your blog, or are they for kids, like you just said recently when the pressure is at an all-time high? It was also during iCarly when 47-year-old Martin Weiss, who managed dozens of child actors, was formally charged with sexually abusing a former client. The victim told police that he had sex with Weiss 30 to 40 times about 6 years ago, and the abuse ended when he turned 15 years old. But Weiss denied that it was rape because the 15-year-old boy showed interest. But the boy said that Martin convinced him that this was common in the industry and denying him would ruin his career. Yet again, a pedophile infiltrated Nickelodeon, and nothing changed. Still,
then you said, hold on. To justify it, you said he showed interest.
A child.
So I thought, but at the end of the day, it's still, and you stopped when he was 15. So when did you start? 30 to 40 times.
Man.
When did you actually start? You know what I'm saying? But your justification is he showed interest. You're at your big old goddamn age, bro.
Come on now.
Like, hold on. It says about 6 years ago, an abuse ended. So when he was 18, he spoke out. I think that's what it said. So 6 from 18, so 12. So 12 to 15, 30 to 40 times. Because he showed interest. So you saying you started with a 12-year-old mother.
Yet again, a pedophile infiltrated Nickelodeon, and nothing changed. Still, Dan was absolutely dominating. He likely had unimaginable power at the network. Whatever he said goes, but he may have gotten a little too comfortable, maybe even cocky, because his next two shows, Victorious and Sam and Cat, would start to get him in a lot of trouble. Schneider was challenged with writing a competitor to Disney Channel's Hannah Montana. Zoe 101 had recently ended, and Dan knew that featured actress Victoria Justice had star power. If there is anything I've learned about kids today, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, it's that they all want to be stars. This direct quote from Dan potentially backs up accusations that he uses these teenagers' desires for stardom to manipulate them. Ironically, the plot of Victorious is about a girl who attends a performing arts school and aspires to be a famous singer. In 2010, iCarly and Victorious were the top 2 live-action shows on Nickelodeon, helping Nick maintain its 16-year status as the #1 network on all of cable. Victorious aired from 2010 to 2013, through 4 seasons, winning Favorite TV Show at the 2012 and 2013 Kids' Choice Awards, beating out iCarly, as well as receiving 4 Emmy nominations. To the surprise of no one, Dan created another iconic children's TV show, but at what cost? Before the show premiered, Nickelodeon...
I would wonder, because he's still in the industry and stuff right now, the black guy, because, you know, he's writing.
Yeah.
I wonder, has he ever spoke out and said anything? Or because he's so deep into the industry, will he ever speak out and say anything? Because even though he's not a face out there anymore, a lot of people are figuring out that he's getting a lot of recognition because of he's writing hit songs for people. Also, I wonder, side note, did he write any songs for Victorious? Like, what was his impact beyond just the acting side of it?
Yeah.
I just, like, after actually thinking about it now, I'm like, dang, he probably did write some songs on there, too.
And Ariana has never said anything either, has she? No. I don't think I'm not sure, I don't know, but... Hey.
She abruptly ended that and dipped. She dipped from that life. Because she was a good actor. And she went straight into the music business and never came back. So I wonder if...
Productions partnered with the Columbia Epic label group of Sony Music Entertainment to co-produce the series to develop talent and release their music. Ariana Grande famously got her big break on Victorious. She was the perfect addition to the show due to her amazing singing capabilities. But her role on the show was the airheaded girl who says literally anything that is on her mind. Perfect for Dan to take advantage of and insert more innuendos.
Sometimes I wonder if you can get juice from a potato. Is it possible for a teenage girl to drink water upside down? I'm thirsty. It's not possible.
This clip of Dan and the Victorious cast behind the scenes has been dissected many times over the years, where Ariana and Elizabeth Gillis seem visibly uncomfortable due to Dan's presence.
That was one of the better things I've ever heard.
Hey.
Hi, what's going on here?
Nothing. You didn't cut out that part.
Why are you sitting on the floor of the set?
Because we are.
If you notice something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know Ariana. I don't know the girl, the black hair girl. So she noticed Dan first, and she immediately pulled Ariana's dress down. Even when Ariana was laying down, she looked back. She noticed Dan. She was like, "Oh shit, Dan's coming! Cover up, girl." Yeah. And Ariana hadn't recognized him yet. She has. She's giving her every sign, every clue that Dan's around. Because they're kidding around. They're teenagers having fun. We you know what I'm saying? Being innocent, living their life, which they should be able to. We've all been there. And then she keeps pulling Ariana's dress down because she's trying to protect her. They even knew each. Crazy.
Ariana is constantly looking around, covering up her body as Dan towered over her. Many in the comments speculate that Liz started causing distractions so that Dan wouldn't do whatever they seemed to be afraid of. However, Liz Gillis actually ended up marrying a Nickelodeon producer that she met on the set of Victorious. Michael Corcoran is a very close friend to Dan Schneider. He wrote the theme songs for iCarly and Victorious. Liz and Michael began dating in 2012 when she was 18 and he was 40. They did meet on set before she was 18, which leads many to believe that she was groomed, but they are still together to this day. According to Jeanette McCurdy, Schneider
What?
I just realized. Yes, her name is Liz. I know exactly who she is. The show that I be watching, Dynasty. She's one of the main characters.
Oh, she is on there.
Yes, that's her. That is crazy.
She was groomed, but they are still together to this day. According to Jeanette McCurdy, Schneider regularly compared the iCarly cast to that of Victorious. The Victorious kids get drunk together all the time. The iCarly kids are so wholesome. We need to give you guys a little edge, Schneider said, according to McCurdy. Now, supplying minors with alcohol is a major accusation. There is definitely a lot of online evidence showing that the Victorious cast were very close, often mingling and hanging out after hours. But whether or not they are drunk is impossible to determine. However, the actor who portrayed Beck on Victorious may have confirmed McCurdy's statements on a TikTok that read, "When you don't remember the plotline to a single Victorious episode, but you remember going out partying every night." Daniela Monet, who played the lead's older sister, Trina Vega, told Insider that some of the actors' outfits on the show were not age appropriate, and that she wouldn't even wear some of that today as an adult. Daniela also recalled a time when she contacted Nickelodeon about a Victorious scene where she ate a pickle while applying lip gloss. She expressed concern to the network that it was too sexual to air, but Nickelodeon aired it anyway. And in case you were wondering if Dan ever slowed down on his foot content, no. He actually ramped it up.
There we go.
What was the
Spread your toes, girl.
Exactly.
I still say this is not performing.
How about two girls fighting over a guy's foot while he sings a song?
Wow, they're really soft.
Nurses, feel these kids' feet.
But it was around 2012 and 2013 when people online finally started to question what was going on at Nickelodeon. I believe it was due to Amanda Bynes' very public downward spiral. It was around this time she made headlines for her first DUI, assaulting a member of the paparazzi, being seen in public looking disheveled and distraught. Then she was evicted from her New York City apartment, and she got some strange dimple piercings and even posted lewd photos that were not very flattering. In short, people were saying that she was going crazy, and naturally they started to question the children's television industry that she grew up in. An infamous blind item appeared on the Crazy Days and Nights blog of someone trying to warn the public about Dan. He's a monster, the worst predator alive, and if you wonder why nobody will confront or charge him, he's in charge of multiple hit shows for Nick, which rakes in oceans of money. What about the parents? No tweener parent who shoved their kid into the limelight from birth is going to cross him either, and risk career suicide and loss of revenue, no matter how bad it F's up the kids. It was also around this time.
I wonder would anyone ever come out and like voice what actually he has done, because we talked about everybody else who has been convicted, but we really haven't voiced the actions of that could possibly get him convicted. And I wonder would that ever happen, because he has so much connection.
I've been sitting here wondering that. That's why I was like, has this person ever? No. And like he stated earlier, like Amanda hasn't even. Yeah. Has never even said anything.
A lot of people haven't though.
A lot of people haven't, but I'm saying just since we're talking about her right now.
Yeah. Like we said, Ariana, Amanda, Keenan Kale, so many others. Even the ones from Victorious, all of them, you never know.
His career suicide and loss of revenue, no matter how bad it F's up the kids. It was also around this time that a Redditor alleged that Dan offered them $100 to tickle their feet while on set of one of his shows. Now, none of these claims were backed by any real or substantial evidence, but it did get people talking. Media outlets finally began speaking out, questioning the intentions of children's TV, specifically pointing to the sexual nature of Victorious. Those designer threads often have an adult sexiness that unsuccessfully straddles the line between tasteful and trampy. While guys are allowed to be quirky and weird-looking, girls are uniformly cast from the same Bratz doll mold. Meanwhile, you had Dan posting things on his blog like, "But what Kat does in this scene is a special variation of the spit take, where the liquid just falls out of her mouth. Yes, this is what I do for a living. I analyze the various kinds of spit takes. Not a bad job." Smiley face. After this quote from Dan, we now know that this photo, which is on the official Zoe 101 IMD page, showing Victoria Justice with spit falling out of her mouth, is probably his creation. You also had people in the early 2010s analyzing his old tweets, ones where he was constantly talking about people's feet and toes. "This toe belongs to one of the stars on one of my shows. Whose toe is this?" To which he later tweeted, "The toe belongs to the sweet and hilariously talented Miss Jeanette McCurdy. Sam and Cat tomorrow. Right on the bottom of your foot, take a pic and use hashtag Sam and Cat Saturday. We will retweet and follow until our fingers get sore." I also found this extremely old Pepsi commercial Dan starred in the late 80s, which potentially features an innuendo with the lotion shot splattering on the guy's chest. Then the focus of the entire commercial being on his feet not wanting to touch the sand because it's hot, and of course there's females in the background in their bikinis. Dan was unaware of the digital renaissance aiming to take him down, and he was as reckless as ever. iCarly was officially over, and Victorious was scheduled to end a few months later. Schneider decided to hit two birds with one stone and make a dual spin-off for both shows. He took a fan favorite from iCarly in Sam Puckett and a fan favorite from Victorious in Cat Valentine, and created a teen sitcom titled Sam and Cat. The premise of the show revolved around the unlikely friendship of Sam and Cat, who meet and become roommates in Los Angeles while starting their own babysitting business to make ends meet, which is basically the same plot as his failed primetime sitcom from the 90s. The pilot debuted on Nickelodeon to 4.2 million viewers and was surprisingly popular despite being a spin-off that was clearly inferior to its original shows. However, Sam and Cat only lasted one season and was cancelled following controversy behind the scenes. Firstly, Jeanette McCurdy posted this strange Vine.
"Hey Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Look what you've done to me."
Considering she would speak out against him 10 years later, we now know this was not our imagination. He was really making her crazy.
What if she did that on purpose to end this? Because she was like, I have to do something.
Yeah.
And she was, bro, it will amaze you what people have to go through to break and leave certain situations.
And when people start talking about stuff and you see like the mental, like, drainage that they went through, like, that's a lot.
We really don't even know what actually really,
and don't
really
even know
happened.
Yeah.
Whether or not something happened to Ariana or her, and then
or any other.
Somebody else found out and was like, "Hey, we gonna end this." Because I've only heard like the Sam and Cat thing. I'm thinking it was like lasting for some years, for only one season.
Yeah.
And I heard it was like it was a good show.
Yeah.
For people to be interested, I'm like, you don't just abruptly end something like that.
That was quick.
Yeah.
In her 2022 memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, McCurdy detailed her childhood and how her mother, Deborah, forced her to become a child actor. Schneider was also mentioned in the memoir solely as the creator, who McCurdy claimed created an unsafe work environment, frequently subjecting the cast and crew to emotional abuse. When Jeanette turned 18 and iCarly was coming to an end, the creator allegedly dangled the opportunity for Jeanette to have her own spin-off. She wrote that the creator took her out to dinner, where he encouraged her to try alcohol for the first time and gave her a shoulder massage. The creator is doing that thing that I've heard from my co-stars he does with every new star of a show that he's making. He takes you under his wing. You're his favorite. Additionally, there was a feud between Ariana and Jeanette brewing behind the scenes. On Jeanette's podcast, she discussed her time on Sam and Cat, revealing that she was jealous of Ariana Grande because executives allowed her the opportunity to pursue other business ventures while restricting McCurdy's career advancement. Every time something exciting happens to her, I feel like she robbed me of having that experience myself. And every time someone calls me a good sport, all I feel is how much I don't want to be one. Ariana misses work in pursuit of her music career while I act with a box. I'm pissed about it, and I'm pissed at her, jealous of her. In case you're wondering, one episode of Sam and Cat was based around Cat getting trapped in a box, and Sam spent the whole episode trying to get her out. The writers had to come up with an episode without her because Ariana was busy with her music career and couldn't film. This show getting cancelled after one very successful season was likely due to this feud, but I'm sure Dan's behavior towards Jeanette and Ariana made it easy easy for them to sever ties with Nickelodeon. This basically marks the end of Dan's dominance at the network. He was recognized for his 20 years of work at Nickelodeon with their very first Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014. For the few online that were aware of the rumors surrounding Dan, this award rubbed them the wrong way. Slowly in 2014 and after, we saw more media coverage pointing out inappropriate moments in his shows. But again, the masses, the general public, had no idea what he was doing. And for a few years, people stopped talking about him online, until 2017, when the Harvey Weinstein Me Too movement shook industry predators to their core, and Dan tried to make it out unscathed. In October of 2017, investigative reports by The New York Times and The New Yorker exposed decades of sexual harassment, assault, and misconduct allegations against film producer Harvey Weinstein. This prompted bloggers who knew about Dan's history to discuss him once again. More blind items from the Crazy Days and Nights blog emerged, like this one that suggests Dan, the producer, was sleeping with cast members. A producer who has been featured on this site from almost the very beginning. When she landed the part, the producer never mentioned anything about sleeping with her. All but one of them were underage. She suspected that because she was legal for almost the entire run of the show, that he was just not that into her. At some point, he did try and sleep with her and she turned him down. That rejection cost her a bunch of scene reductions. Meanwhile, the producer found someone else to sleep with who was also legal but loved to roleplay super young. She was getting the good lines and scenes. She was being offered crossover opportunities and new shows were being developed for her. And again, this could just be people spreading lies, but now the pressure was on, and Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider, they could feel the heat. Websites like The Revenge of the Sis became fully dedicated to exposing the creepy nature of the Nickelodeon network. Coincidentally, as the pressure was at an all-time high, Nickelodeon cut ties with Dan Schneider in March of 2018 and paid him the $7 million still owed on his contract. They claim this separation was a natural next step and they are proud of the work he did for Nickelodeon. Deadline Hollywood reported that there had been complaints about Schneider's alleged behavior, including his well-documented temper issues for years. Following reports that Nickelodeon and Schneider parted ways, Dan's Twitter account went quiet. He only rarely made public appearances. He also tried to erase everything on his blog, but we still got that. Nickelodeon Studios even released its reboot of iCarly for the Paramount Plus streaming platform without Schneider. From Dan's exit in 2018 until today, YouTubers, bloggers...
That's one reason why, like, before I've heard all this stuff, I was like, why is he not a part of Good Burger 2? I was like,
before all of this.
Yeah. Before all this came out, I'm like, what happened to this?
And then now you're like, oh.
I'm like, oh, no wonder why.
Yeah.
Because let's all be honest. Let's be real with it. Even if Nickelodeon had cut ties with Dan, let's be real. Let's all be honest. Nickelodeon even had cut ties with him. They was gonna do a Good Burger 2. They would have brought him back as an actor. Mm-hmm. Just say, hey, you know what I'm saying? It will be good to see you make an appearance. And say, hey, he retired or something, or Ed gave him a job, because you know the whole setup of Ed owns the franchise now. Yeah. But he was the manager. He was the Ed. What's in the sauce? You know what I'm saying? So if Nick went on to the BS he was doing behind the scenes, they would have brought him back even as an actor. Not as a director or a scriptwriter. Even as just an actor. Y'all would have had him involved in something. Him not being involved in it at all kind of give us a kind of like, oh, y'all know. Yeah. Y'all know. Mm-hmm. I ain't going to say nothing, but y'all hinting to it. Even the iCarly spinoff.
All of it.
Oh, okay.
Because you know, 9 times out of 10, it's a lot happening, went on.
But y'all are aware. Yeah. But y'all kind of trying to brush it off like we got rid of it. But
you know, because it's a bad look.
He better. It's coming. That's all I gotta say. Eventually, it's gonna come.
Previous cast members and media outlets greatly contributed to informing the public about Dan's ways. Perhaps the most detailed and detrimental article was the 2022 Business Insider Deep Dive, which interviewed 15 of Dan's former co-workers, some of which spoke horrible things and others defended his character. Dan cared about the kids on his shows even when sometimes their own families unfortunately did not. Russell Hicks, Nickelodeon's former president of content and production, wrote, "He was the shoulder they cried on when something happened to them. He understood what they were going through. Schneider drew hours away from writing scripts and instead spent time mingling with the stars on his shows, taking them out to dinner and inviting them to his house for holiday parties. It became so frequent that some of Schneider's colleagues questioned the amount of time he spent interacting with young actors. While Dan focused on being accepted by the children on his shows, several writers and crew members claimed Schneider created an uncomfortable, bizarre environment, regularly demanding 14-plus hour days and expected writers and crew members to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. More disturbing was Schneider's behavior towards female crew members, reportedly hugging them for extended periods as a joke, making people uncomfortable. Schneider also requested massages from adult female colleagues during his tenure at the network, according to several Nickelodeon staffers. Kerry Mellon, who worked as a costumer on Schneider's shows for 14 years, said Schneider received weekly massages from a third member of the costume team. They also claimed that Schneider would ask the women to give him a massage by reaching under his shirt. Despite claims that he fostered a hostile work environment, Schneider's shows at Nickelodeon were greenlighted because of his influence within the company. On-set employees rarely pushed back against Schneider. Another writer said, "Because you just didn't cross Dan. He was a really scary presence." However, it took all the way until the Quiet on Set documentary before Dan ever responded to any of these allegations. But during this 20-minute interview, he basically only admits to being mean to his writers.
I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do. And watching that show, it made me, there were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, I'm so sorry and let's talk about it. And I wish you'd had a better time and I wish I could have shown you a better experience.
The rest of this conversation was him deflecting blame. He said that his inappropriate jokes were approved by the executives at Nickelodeon that were above him, and they didn't think the jokes were inappropriate at the time. But he also said that since people are upset about those jokes, then he's okay with erasing them, which makes people wonder, are they inappropriate or not? He claims he had no knowledge of...
Which is true. If you're okay with erasing them, you knew from the beginning.
If they were inappropriate.
Yeah, because I'm not going to erase anything if I don't stand on it too, just because that's what a lot of things, you might find something inappropriate, I might not find it inappropriate. So I'm going to keep doing it, you know what I'm saying, because it's not meant to be that way.
Yeah.
But if so many people say, you like, oh, okay, since people, I don't mind erasing it. So you agree then, huh?
Yeah, that it's... Yeah, looking at it, yeah, it was inappropriate. Shouldn't have done it.
If it's inappropriate now, it's inappropriate then.
You're right.
Sexual assault that any of his previous cast members experienced, but he did admit to demanding massages.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
Yeah.
He 100% wholeheartedly admitted that he forced people to touch him, which is interesting because it becomes very difficult to believe that he would stop there. Perhaps the craziest part about this video is that there's still so much more that I could cover. Some people's entire YouTube channels are dedicated to bringing Dan's dark secrets to light. But I do want to leave off with this message. Just remember that it's easy to think that this is all just entertainment because, well, these allegations feature some of our favorite child stars. Remember that they were real victims that had to suffer. People have gotten so wrapped up and excited about this expose that they're now blaming innocent people for being complicit in these alleged crimes. For example, Zoe 101 star Matthew Underwood was getting death threats for not speaking out against Dan Schneider. So to prove to these people that he is innocent, he voiced 2 different times where he was sexually assaulted as a minor. So now, after hearing many of the allegations, the rumors, the testimonies, the convictions, the confessions surrounding Dan Schneider's time on Nickelodeon, is it all just a coincidence, a conspiracy, or a calculated crime conglomerate?
But I will also agree, you can't force anyone to want to speak up, man.
And that's what people have to understand. When people go through something like that, everybody's timing is different. True. As to when they are comfortable coming out, and some never do.
Some never do. They want to take those secrets to their grave because a lot of them feel embarrassed. They feel guilty. They feel like they're not the victim, that the offender is the victim because maybe I did something that made you think.
Like you start blaming yourself for things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or maybe I should have done that, or maybe I like led them to think that like.
So
that's what, you know what I'm saying. So I hate when people be like, well, if you ain't speaking that and then a lot of people don't speak out because when people do speak out, you have so many people that don't believe them or turn a blind eye or make excuses for it's a lot. Like, so you really have to give people grace when it comes to things like that and understand that everyone is different, everyone's timing is different.
And I will be honest, I have been one of those ones, like, and I went through and like, so why this person didn't speak up? Why this? Also, we can't say just because they didn't speak up that something happened to them. And they want to, sometimes, honestly, they could have been one of the ones, like, nothing ever bad happened to me. Even though my co-star said, because sometimes, honestly, you're going to get yelled at being on sets and stuff. That just comes with it. You know what I'm saying? But you can't always hold people accountable for yelling. It comes with the show business on all levels. But some people, like, hey, they might not have took offense to it. Hey, if they never yelled at me, I wouldn't have became a better actor. So maybe I needed that to get me riled up. Some people say, hey, I wasn't sexually like abused, or I never got to sexual events. And stuff so like that. I never experienced that to be able to speak on it. So what is there for me to come out and say? So yeah, some people have not experienced anything. Some have. If we notice, a lot of them that did experience, they wasn't the ones that really was thrown that came out and spoke. They wasn't really thrown, but they felt. So you never know who. You don't know what to what degree. You know? Yeah. So don't go too quick to judge. Just be willing to allow people to come out and speak their truth when they're
ready. And
as supporters and fans, be there to continue to support them. If they ever do come out, still say, hey, we're glad you have spoke out. So if anyone else have experienced this, it gives them the encouragement to be able to speak out. Mm-hmm. But just know that we're gonna still support you no matter what. And we're going to be in your corner to make sure that you get the justice that you deserve, you know? So don't make the death threats and stuff. That's weird, bro.
That's definitely.
But also, in the middle of the massages and stuff, you admit to the things that you know that there's nothing legally that can be done.
And I was sitting here thinking that I'm like, the light stuff. You took ownership and accountability for the light stuff that that's like, I'm not going to get held accountable for making someone uncomfortable or yelling at someone. You've had all these years to think about. Massaging me. You had all these years to think about all of this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but if there was anything, because my thing is, so it's the truth behind the massages. Folks felt. So what else have you done?
Facts.
Come on now. But hey, man, y'all spam us up in the comments. Y'all let us know your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. But as always, y'all know how it go, man. I do go by the name DJ Mickey. This is we are. Yeah. Go and get it. Ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my folks. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar.